Hi, I'm Matt Fleischman, and this is a quick run-through of the results tracking system. Um, You get to the results tracking system. To get into the results tracking system, you will be sent an email, and in that email, it will give you a link to a page. And the page will look something like this. Um, It'll say therapist dashboard. It'll have an agency number and a therapist number. This is unique to you. Also, this is the identification for your therapist dashboard. Do not share this with other people, but also there's all sorts of security built into this in that other people cannot open this file unless their permissions are listed in the sharing over here. When you get this page, these two lines here will be blank because you won't have any clients. And to create a client, you simply click or you hover over here, click on the link that opens up, and now you're ready to create a client. And so to create a client, you want to put in client initials. We never use client names. So let's say it's T.S. Thomas Smith, and he's 8, and he's a boy. That's it. Then you click here. You can actually close this window up here. You won't need it again. And in a while, that file will show up here. Now, to move things along, I'm going to go to one I've already created, and that is this file right here. This was one I made earlier. This was for a client who I called Test2, and the reason I named a client Test is that way I know it's not a real client, and it's okay for me later to delete this entire file. So if you want to play around in the program, create a file, call it Test1, Test2, Test3, just like that. Give it an age, give it a gender, and you get a page like this that comes up. If it may come up showing this page. If it does, look at the tabs down below. You have to wait till it's loaded and then click on the patient info tab. You get to here. You go back and forth using these tabs at the bottom. The first thing you're going to do is after that is you want to go down this column, and so you want to get an ACEs score. The way to get an ACEs score is you go over to this tab called ACEs. Look here on the left if it's a child or adolescent. Look on the right if it's an adult. And you're going to ask the client to read down this column, or you can read it to them, or you could put this on pencil and paper and hand it to them, and ask them to look at the first item. Did a parent or other adult in your household when you were growing up, in other words, as a child or teenager, these things happened to you, yes or no? And then just check off the ones that are true, ignore the ones that are not. And you'll notice that down at the bottom, it'll total up the number of checks. If you want to keep it even more anonymous, you can give this list to the client, give them a piece of paper and tell them to make a hash mark for each one, or a count on, for which ones are true. We don't care which ones are true and which are not. Just we want to know what the total is. And they can write that total in here. So I could write 6 in here. Whoops, I could write 6 in here. That's fine. Even if there aren't, you don't have to check it. The key then is you take that number, there we go, and you go back up to the patient info tab and you put it in here. So if they checked off 6, you put a 6 in. When you do that, you notice that something else also happened, and that is that it turned from white to yellow to white. We have boxes as yellow saying they need information. Please enter the information. Once you enter the information, it turns white. We also tell you what score to enter if you don't know it. So in this case, if you didn't know and couldn't find out an ACEs score, the client wouldn't tell you, enter 99. Okay. We have a research group assignment right here. These are some choices. Most typically, it's not applicable, but if you don't know it, you can also put unknown. That's fine. And then we skip this, and now we go down here and you have a series of yes, no, and unknown questions. In the year before, did the client go to the emergency room for medical concerns? Yes, no, unknown. You go to the next one. Did they have ER visits for psychiatric concerns? hospitalizations for medical reasons, and you just ask the client. Now, if you as a therapist know these answers, you can put these in. If you're working with a child, arrests or incarcerations, if it's a young child, certainly it's no, but just go on down. Some of the questions, this one, number of current stresses, here you have to go to the current stresses tab. And here are a series of type of stresses that you want to know if they're currently experiencing. So it's kind of like the ACEs. You just go down, have the client read it, put the checks in, check off, nope, not true, is true, etc., etc. We've added one down here for exposure to natural disasters, pandemics, war, victim of crime. So if this is, you're using this during COVID-19 time, you have to decide, does the client feel that they've been exposed, this is a problem affecting their life? If it is, just check it. Okay. Again, you get a score. You have to go back up to the patient info tab and you enter the score. And the score can be anywhere from 0 to 10. Just like before. They put down, you put down 1, put in 1. Okay. And then here we go. How well are they coping? From 1, not well at all, to 5, very well, and you would enter a 0 if unknown. Again, same things here. You just enter these scores. I'm not going to detail them because the question should be fairly self-explanatory. Once you've done this, there's one other thing here. If your agency assigns a case number to a file, you can put that in here. It's not important to us. It can be maybe important to you. Okay, now you come to the heart of the program. The whole results program is built around clients identifying what their concerns are and then tracking those concerns over the course of treatment. And so to do this, you want to enter the first concern here. Now, one way you can say to the client is simply, what are you concerned about? We have a whole page here to help you go through this. Oops, I previously used this in a demonstration. I'll take those out. Basically, you just go in and ask the client to look over these lists, to check off things that are possible, then to go down the second column and winnow down the number of problems to 5 to 8 main concerns, and then put it into their own phrasing. So you can go through here, because eventually what you're going to do is you're going to take those concerns and you're going to enter them up here. So let's say one of their concerns is poor sleep, specifically wakes multiple times during the night. The next concern is easily irritated. Another one might be loses track of time. Oops, time. Okay. And I'll pick, let's say another one. Let's see, holds onto resentments, and we might add, and you might say, what do you mean? And let's say this person's divorced and keeps thinking of X, whatever. And then over here, you would put in how long have these been problems. Oh, I wanted 5 to 8, so let me pick in a fifth one. Highly sensitive, or no, overreactive to criticism. Okay, and then you could go down here and you put in scores. Not scores. How long has this been a problem? If they say sleeping poorly, that's been the last 3 years. Easily irritated, you could say last 3 years. Loses track of time, they could say that all their life. Capital A means always. I'm going to rush through that. This is all that. You see this thing that keeps showing up? Up here, we have a link to the instructions, so don't worry if you didn't catch it as I run through this. And this over here is links to these concerns checklists, or you can just go to the tabs down here. This last part on this page is about treatment planning. And this is something you want to do not so much with the client, But when you think about all the information, the intake before you start treatment, you want to say, okay, am I dealing with a client who has anxiety? If so, you click there. They're not depressed, but they do have problems with, what did they say? Loses track of time. They're distractible maybe. They have problems with sleep, whatever. You just click these things off. Lastly, you want to ask, is this a client I'm going to want to start likely a T3, T4, T4, P4, or both? And this whole section down here is kind of cheat sheets on starting site indicators and frequency optimization. So I'll put down here. Just read this. If you've given the client the quick test, and we want you to, take those original scores and enter them here. If you're using some other tests, including the Cambridge Brain Science, you put those scores in here. Okay. Now you're almost done. One more thing. And this you have to do with the client. Remember that you picked these 5 concerns on the other page. Now they show up here. And now you want to ask the client to give you baseline ratings. Poor sleep, wakes up multiple times during the night, and you would say on a bad week, how bad is it? The client says, oh, it's a 10. On a good week, is it? It's a 7. On a usual week, it's a 9. And you would do the same thing. If a client wants to check off they lose track of time, on a usual bad week, it's a 2, and on a good week, it's a 0, we really strongly suggest you tell the clients, let's not rate them so low because there's no room for improvement. Maybe it's just this, but you want higher ratings. We're not comparing themselves to anyone else. It's just them sense of how much this is a problem. And again, here are your scores. You just put them in, and you pretty much now, you'll have all these in there. So you're ready to start using it. If that seemed like a lot of work, be relieved. That's about most of it. From now on, it's easy to do, and this is the part actually the client likes because they're going to be tracking their concerns. So now you're ready for your first session. Let's say you do the session at 7:12. Oops. It is, I don't know what I wrote, 7/12. And you give the screen to the client. By the way, you can slide this over to the client. You can have this you can open this up on an iPad or Android tablet, doesn't matter. But you give it to the client. You can also slide this page over onto the same screen that the movie displays or the video games. Give a client a mouse and just let them check. Check. And it's important that they can see their earlier scores because this way they're comparing themselves. They have a framework to see how they're doing. Anyhow, they make the checks. You run your session. There's one more thing you have to do, and this is really helpful. And that is you want to record the protocol. You see the date came over here. But now let's say with this client, you decided that it's both a T3 and T4 client. You started at T4 at 0.1. You got down to 0.01. You just wanted to go there and stop. Everything was fine. You put 0.01. Oops. Sorry. That was a mistake. Didn't mean to put it there. I meant to put it under the T4, P4. And you'll notice one thing here. If you make a mistake, it's easy to fix. Just delete it, go elsewhere. You go over here, it was T3, T4, you did the same 3.01, enter. That's all. That's how you enter a protocol. Let's say it's the next session. I'm going to go here, 7:14. It's easy to do. You enter that. We'll go here. It was a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, just for the second of it. And this time you went to 001 at both sites. And then at the next site, I'm going to go one more time. We go over here, 7/21, and yeah, let's go there. Whoops, notice if I click 2 boxes, it turned red. Fix it, it goes to there. going to go to here, going to go to here. Okay, so now we've got 3 scores. And at this last session, you repeated. You didn't change the frequency, you didn't change the placement. If you don't change the placement or the frequency, but you just repeat it, then you want to put a slash mark in here. And let's say you didn't change it there too. What you notice is immediately you can look at this and you can see 3 sessions worth of protocols. If at this session you decided to add T3FP1 at 0.002, and I'm just doing this for illustration purposes, that's what it would look like. So you can very quickly see you added this, continued with this. That's how you do the protocol guide. One other thing, there's a tab here for SOAP notes, and here you enter the data. I'm not going to fill this in here just to move along, but I want to show you what this starts to look like. This is another client. This is actually real data. Let me go back here. This is what entries look like. This is what their SOAP notes would look like. What the client is, in this case, mom reports no decrease in symptoms. Objective, client is common attentive to various arcade games, ended at point triple, that's his, yeah, 001. Assessment, and then continue right side calming to him for optimization. You know, this helps you think the next time you come back, she might have, you know, if you were going to change the protocol, you might have said next time try this. Okay. There's another screen here, which is chart, which if you once you have enough cases, enough sessions recorded, you get to see very nice charts like this. And you also see tables like this that show you all the ratings and how they've improved and how they go from red to green as things get better. And you can also see the percentage change from their baseline scores, which averaged 9.0, to the last 3 scores, which averaged 2.9, 2.9. That's a 68% reduction in symptoms. This is a very nice, quick summary of everything that's done. And by the way, you can print any of this out by going up into File, Print. I won't go through it, but in printing it, you can print it to email as a PDF document. You can print it out. You can just save it as a PDF in somewhere else if you want that. The nice thing about it is when you print this to email or print it to PDF, it does not include the URL. So somebody who gets hold of the printout, even in a digital form, can't type this number in, get back into the file. It's all part of security. Okay. I think that's the main things. Going back to, this is our file here. This is what we're showing you. Why do we want you to do this? The end point is we will produce for your agency and for everybody data. This is really live data. This is really different in the sense that every point you enter goes into a database of everybody and you have access to it. Oh, I forgot one thing that's very important. One of the things that we're tracking is no-shows and late cancellations. That's this number in here. The reason why we track this is that it looks like our evidence has been that clients who are receiving neurofeedback are much more likely to make their appointments than clients who are going to other therapies. Even if, even if they're voluntary, even if they like the therapist, even if they like the group, they're more likely to find reasons that they can't make a particular session. The way we collect that data is on the sessions page. So we've had this. You've entered the date. Now let's say they had a session on 7/24, but they didn't show up, or they canceled. Now, if your policy is 2 work days before, we don't take into account excuses. The car wouldn't start, the child's sick. If they didn't show, just put in S. We're not making a judgment as to why. We know people don't show to everything. But the next session, they did come, and that was 7/29. Okay. So now we see they've had 5 sessions scheduled. They have missed 1. If we go back to the client info page, you notice their no-show late cancellations is 20%. This number will change. Again, really important data. Really, really important data. Please record it. Please be strict, whatever your agency criteria is. And even if, there may be no penalties and people have good reasons, but you just want to keep track of that. Okay, so that is my quick overview. This is why we need you to collect the data. The data is invaluable. But also, let's be honest. Let's say you implement the program in your agency and your clients don't like it. They don't get better. They don't show up. They don't rate it any better and they like other things doing. Fine, we need to know that. It's not right to keep implementing things that aren't helpful. So you are really useful. And if you, again, the program is built on Google Sheets. One of the key things on it, it has a lot of security. So one of the biggest problems we find is you have to log in from whatever email is associated with your Google account. If you have problems with the program, please email me. That's listed at the bottom of the instructions page. By the way, that instructions page can always be found right here. I click here for instructions. You go to this, and my email is down there. Email me. You're not being a pest. This is the way we find problems. So thank you so much. I look forward to you using it, and thank you for being part of the project.